have Nick is almost a regular member attendee now, but Nick Meyer is here. He's a member of the clients, and he's here with us this year, September. I want to say during the break, we'll be taking a break, and sorry, it's a mirror. I find looking at myself in that mirror very distracting. Dreadful. Okay, out in the hallway during the break, we'll have copies of Nick's new Sherlock Holmes novel, Sherlock Holmes and the Real Thing, for sale. And yes, there's a copy of it right there for sale and to get signed. We had a wonderful night last night at Black Dog Books, but a lot of you weren't there, but you're here now. So this is your opportunity. The book is great. It's getting rave reviews, and I'm sure that many of us here who have read it will concur. It's quite wonderful. It's really, and I said this before, he did call me honest. He goes, "You say that about every book I read." I said, "I know, but it's true. It's my favorite one since West End horror, all the way back in the 1970s." And that's really true. It's quite great. So, all right, with that, does anybody have any announcements they want to share with the group while we're waiting for dinner to come on out? Yeah, we have some over here. Hey, come on up to the podium if you don't mind.
We're all here to honor Nick, who wrote this fabulous book, and I wish him nothing but the best of luck and hope that it sells at least 2 million copies and all of that. But in a moment of unashamed self-promotion, I wish to announce there was another book that came out this week. And that book is on Kickstarter. It's called But I Digress, and I'm the author. It's been a lot of fun. So if you care to get involved with it, you can either order it on Kickstarter now, or at least contribute, because it's still in the first phase. And if you want to know about Kickstarter, ask your grandchildren. Don't ask me. Understand it. But later on, it'll be available on Amazon. So remember the book, and all the money that is made from the book is going to the John H. Watson Fund.
Well, in order to properly prepare for the planning meeting, you should all come to Chicago September 27th to attend a presentation by Scott Monty on Sherlock Holmes in the past, the present, and the future. It's a lecture being sponsored by the Tourist International, and you can contact me or go to our website, touristinternational.org, and register. And some of you are coming. It'll be a fun day. And the day before, we're going to the Art Institute at 11 o'clock to see the Kaya voting. The day of, you're right, the day of, the morning of, we're going to the Art Institute to see the Kaya voting exhibit. Great.
And because tourists don't have enough to do, right? We're asking you to save the date, which is October 23rd to the 24th, 2026. We are having a conference called, and it is always 1895. We are honoring Vincent Sterrett, who we consider a Chicagoan, even though he's born in Toronto. We have a stellar lineup of speakers that Ray Betzner put together, and we hope you'll all save that date and plan on coming. Yeah.
So a lot of you know that I'm deeply involved with this. I'm deeply involved with the Cincinnati group, Tankerville Club. We're going to have our annual film fest next Saturday. If you came last year, you got to see a really cool little theater that's been around since 1881. We're doing it again there. It's the first all animated Sherlockian film festival ever. They have an incredible pub there too. That's what I need to reel in all the good Sherlockians. So we're going to meet there at 2. Film festival starts at 3:30. I'm going to show one animated short I guarantee nobody in the room has ever seen, and a lot of others that you might not have seen. So it's going to be a fun time. We're going to go out to dinner afterward if you want to stick around and do that. It's $5, but you get popcorn and a soda and get to hang out with a lot of other cool people. If you want more specifics, just come see me tonight and I'll give you all the info. So I hope to see a bunch of you there. Thanks.
So I'm Regina Stinson from Royal Oak, Michigan, and the Ribston Pippins are celebrating their 37th anniversary on November 15th. And you are all invited. And that guy that just got up here and talked about the film festival, he's our featured speaker. So if you're at all interested, come see me and I'll give you the details. But he's a great speaker. He's funny and he's clever, and you don't want to miss this. So just saying that.
And it's an anniversary.
And it's our anniversary. Yes, we're 37th anniversary. Yep.
Cool.
Right.
So I hope you notice kind of a theme. I want to emphasize the announcement of other Scion Society's meetings, because we're sitting here in the middle of this glorious ring of Sherlock Holmes societies: Chicago, Cincinnati, Royal Oak, Michigan. It's a Detroit suburb of. These are all Midwestern Scions. We've all become sort of linked together. We attend each other's meetings, and I would urge you to do this, to go, pick one and go. Look at your calendar and go. It's a great time. It gets us out of our own pond. And once you know, I sound like Obi-Wan. We've taken your first step into a large universe. But it's true. Obi-Wan was smart, and he knew what he was saying, and he's right. And when you go, you'll have a great time. Tangerville Club is wonderful. Ribston Pippins is always a blast. They have a great number of really fine antiquarian bookstores up there too. You spend your afternoon going to. I always come home with some kind of treasure. And yeah, it's all great. Chicago, come on. It's great. The tourists are wonderful. And I also urge you to mark your calendar. You'll be getting a lot of notices, I'm sure, about the Vincent Starrett conference in October. There's also another one. Is it June or July? In St. Louis.
End of July.
End of July. The Homes Under the Arch. And I don't want to sound, are we recording this? I don't want to sound, all that, but the Midwest this is where all the energy is right now, in my opinion, Wordsworth. And that's all because of all these groups were satellites to each other. And anyway, without getting, too poetic or something, it's all happening. And I really would wish it's sort of a reflection of the canonical conclave we had in April and a lot of the energy that's been happening. Anyway, I say all this to urge you to go and take a trip. You'll find many of your fellow clients. I'm sure you can carpool to any one of these events, and you're guaranteed to have a great time. So that's all I have to say about that. Wonderful. Okay, well, I'll get started here. We're going to just carry on while we wait for dinner. We'll start with some of our. No, let's do a little Sherlockian show and tell. That's a good thing to do.
Too tall.
Because this is mentioned in the story, I brought our jackknife correspondence, which was at the Conclave of Science in April. It sat on the mantelpiece there. So it'll be up here at the lectern. So everybody gets to admire their work, because it was your work that helped create this. Everybody got to write out an address of Sherlock Holmes, and we stuck it together. That was really cool. And also up here above my head, people online can't see it. Maybe I'll tilt the camera a little bit. But we have our bullet box that was also on the wall from the Conclave of Science. So you guys enjoy it. Have fun.
This is a poster, obviously. Rest is here. It was actually the end papers. The image is the end papers for the original edition of the Sherlock Holmes scrapbook that came out many, many moons ago. And the story behind how I got this is one I wanted to share, although I love the image. And I actually own a set of the cigarette cards, which I did not bring tonight, but those are fun. This poster hung in a bookshop in downtown Champaign, Illinois for 20 years. Jane Addams Bookshop, which started in Chicago and moved at some point to downtown Champaign. And the owner, Flora Faraci, her husband was a chef, and so he had a restaurant there, and so she opened up her bookstore there. And this was on the wall. She was disinclined to sell it. At some point after, as I say, 20 plus years, she retired and sold the shop to a young couple that wanted to keep it going and has really done a great job with the store. One day I was in there and I asked the person at the cash register about this poster, which was still hanging on the wall. And I said, is that for sale? I don't see a price tag on it, knowing that it hadn't been for sale for 20 years. Yes. And so the young woman said, well, let me go ask the owner. And so she went in the back and she came out, you can have it for $20. And I said, see, thank you very much. The framing costs more than that, but yeah. Anyway, I wanted to show this off, and I'll prop it up against the wall here so you can look at it.
Yeah.
So some of you know that I was married to my husband, Sam Stinson, and he was a pipe smoker. And so over the years, he collected tobacco. And some of the tobacco tins have a Sherlockian connection. This one is Peterson, Sherlock Holmes. It's made in Ireland. And you can clearly see the Sherlockian connection.
French.
This one is called McClellan's 221B series Black Shag, which is clearly a Holmes connection. And this interesting one was put out by Dunhill, which is a pipe manufacturer. And it's called Mixture 221B Baker Street. Tobacco seriously damages health, it says. But it's hand blended, so this is that's nice. So these are some things I kept, because I have a Sherlockian connection. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's true.
I had the fortune of being asked to do an interview on Sherlockian Monthly. Is it tall enough?
Yeah, it might not be tall enough. Should talk right into it. The mic.
I will be doing an interview for Sherlockian Monthly with Maria Fleischak on the 27th. And I was assigned the Golden Pince-Nez as our story that we're going to discuss for 2 whole hours, which is going to be a lot in depth. And when you have things and you kind of accumulate things over your lifetime and you have this really weird brainwave, like I know I have this thing. I'm pretty sure I have a thing. Let me go see if I can find it. Well, I do. I inherited this from my grandmother. It's from the optometrist O.I. Crawford and Company, south side of the square, Marion, Indiana. And they are a pair of gold chain pince-nez from about I'm kind of dating them between 1915 and 1920. They have the little cork on the inside that Holmes talks about being replaced multiple times. They have one chain instead of 2 black ribbons, but I have both this. I have the interior of the actual case. Wellsworth Tiller lenses. Unlike ordinary lenses, they give clear vision not only to the wearer, but through the margins as well. And it has a name and your ability to put your prescription on it. So plus a little But anyway, if anyone wants to look at them, please feel free, but do be careful. They are extremely delicate, which is why I always laugh about homes saying that they were repaired a bunch of times. I can see why that is. These things feel like they could fall apart at any moment, but you're welcome to have a look at them if you'd like.
So outside of my life as a Sherlockian, I like to wander and I like to search for things. And one of the places I like to search for things is Goodwill. And these two are linked in that I found them at Goodwill. So the second thing I found, technically, I was wandering around looking for, I don't know, remember what, but I ran across the fully dramatized Baker Street Dozen. There are 12 of the stories done for radio, starring John Gilbert, Ralph Richardson, and Orson Welles. And for $5, I'm not turning up my nose at that. And then the second one was actually the first thing I found. And I was so excited to find him. One of my other interests is I like to collect dolls of varying shapes, sizes, types, and eras. And he is a Knowles doll, aptly named Little Sherlock. I found him for $15, and he is possibly the cutest thing I've ever found. Head, hands, and feet are porcelain, so he is relatively delicate, but he is also very posable. So if you would like to see him, come see me. I'm over in the corner. I was so ridiculously thrilled to find him. His face just I don't know, but I do have a certificate of authenticity and the number of his limited run, so I can check.
Okay.
Turn him this way.
Does anybody else have anything? The only thing I have is I want to show off the latest issue of the Baker Street Journal. This is it's at the printer now. This is the proof copy, but it's approved, so it's fabulous, gorgeous, great contents. Mike McSwiggan in the back corner back there is the associate editor. Dan Andriaco, who you know all know well from Cincinnati, is the editor. Many hands go into producing the journal. I urge you to subscribe. Let's go to bakerstreetirregulars.com and you can follow the link to the page to get your copy of the Baker Street Journal. And it's lovely. If you want to take a look at it during a break or something, it'll be right up here. All right, if I could have your attention, please, we'll carry on. We have a long list of canonical toasts tonight. You know, this is a story. The Musgrave Ritual is our sort of highlighted story for this meeting, and for a story that's told in flashback with not very many characters, we have a long list of toasts tonight. So we'll start. And I'm going to move your thing here so I don't do something silly. Okay, so we'll start with the toast. We'll start with a toast to the sort of the namesake of the story, Reginald Musgrave, and that toast will be offered by Shelley Gage.
So, did a lot of thinking about how we might sum up the character of Reginald Musgrave. He seems to be a man of contradictions. We're told that he appears to be very proud, but Holmes suspects that he's actually really very shy. He has very courtly manners, and yet somehow he's still unpopular with his fellow students. Right. He dresses like a dandy, and yet somehow still reminds Holmes of a feudal keep. He seems to be a harsh employer based on how he fired Brunton rather abruptly, and yet at the same time, the way he treats Rachel Howes shows that he is a kind man, and the fact that he calls in Holmes to look for his two employees who have run away
which is certainly their right to do, but he's concerned about them also speaks to kindness. So as I was thinking about him, I thought, what would it have been like to spend 20 years growing up at Hurlston Manor in the shadow of the family butler, who is smarter than you are, and you are smart enough to know this at least. He is extremely talented, speaks multiple languages, plays every musical instrument. He has a way with the ladies since he plays a local Don Juan. And here you are, Reginald Musgrave, constantly overshadowed by the person who's supposed to be your employee. And yet through all of that, we don't see a man who became bitter. He continues to be kind. He has admiration for others' intelligence. He admires Holmes. He admires the way Holmes is going to live by his wits. I almost sense that there maybe is a little bit of envy there because Holmes isn't stuck being the scion of the big local family. He has an opportunity to make his own way in the world. And so at the end of the day, I almost feel that Reginald Musgrave is a man out of time. He is old-fashioned, even for the Victorian era. And he does seem to be a good and kind man. So I think we can raise a glass to Reginald Musgrave, an old-fashioned gentleman.
You're here.
So our next toast is to Sir Ralph Musgrave, and that's actually going to be offered by Nancy Fingerendog.
Steve is hesitant to tell you that he can spell gauge and pronounce it, which is why he put it there. But Van Arendonk was a bit of a challenge for him. Holmes's friend, Reginald Musgrave, said of his ancestor, Sir Ralph Musgrave, that he was, quote, a prominent cavalier and the right-hand man of Charles II in his wanderings. And it was indeed that connection between the king and that early member of the Musgrave family that led to the ancient crown of the kings of England being hid on Sir Ralph's property and the creation of the mysterious ritual that subsequent generations of his family had to commit to memory. These things are significant in their own right. But there's another consequence to Sir Ralph Musgrave's service to the king, a greater honor, if you would call it that, one that even Holmes himself did not foresee. And that is that well over a century later, the family ritual of the Musgraves would be referenced in a 2025 book by Nicholas Meyer.
All right, our next toast is by Rudy Algergott, and it is to Charles the First. Rudy's okay.
That's her. Nick say last night, the guy with all the nude pictures. My lords, ladies, and gentlemen, I rise this evening to toast His Majesty King Charles III. No, the first. Six on the first. The first. Without whom there would have been no Musgrave ritual, for his beheading was perhaps, the start of that civil war. I give you King Charles I.
You're here.
Well, since we're delineating Charles I, let's have a toast to Charles II. And that is by Larry Van Arendonk. See, I got Larry. I'll take a person next time.
Just has trouble with it. That's right. It's the hardest one. Okay, a spot of background is necessary. I will be very brief.
Yes. Eat the mic. There you go.
I will be brief. I will leave out all the political intrigue. So, which was much. Okay. So a bit of background. Charles II, born 1630, was the son of Charles I. He was King of Scotland from 1649 to 1651, and King of England, Scotland, and Ireland from 1660 till his death in 1685, the restoration of the monarchy. In between, of course, you had Oliver Cromwell and that stuff. With Cromwell's death in 1658, his son Richard became Lord Protector, because Cromwell had taken over as Lord Protector of England and Ireland. And then
he defeated Charles II in the Battle of Worcester, so Cromwell took over everything. Charles II had to flee to the mainland, and much political intrigue. We will skip over that. With Cromwell's death in 1658, his son Richard became Lord Protector. He quickly ceded power to Parliament, and after a multi-way power struggle, resulted in the restoration of the monarchy, and they invited Charles II back to England. The restoration was accompanied by social change. Puritan severity under Cromwell was replaced by magnificence and opulence. Charles was termed the Merry Monarch. Theater and comedy, especially bawdy comedy, flourished. Sexually explicit language was encouraged by Charles personally. Historian George Norman Clark states, the best known fact about Restoration drama is that it is immoral. Now, Charles II was widely considered an intelligent and politically adept king, known for wit, subtlety, and ability to adapt to changing political situations. He also had broad intellectual interests, particularly in science and mathematics. He supported the founding of the Royal Society in 1660, shortly after his return. So the Royal Society came about under his reign. He also issued a declaration of religious tolerance, which was interesting in that time frame, but Parliament refused to ratify it. Charles died 1685, February 6, 1685, at the Palace of Whitehall, aged 54, possibly due to his experiments with mercury, but that's not proven. Anyway, he was succeeded by his brother James II and the seventh, second of England, seventh of Scotland. Now, it would be good to say that Charles II had learned from the experience of his father and avoided the excesses that brought about his execution, but alas, he continued in them. Charles had no legitimate children of his own, but he fathered at least 12 by 7 mistresses. Now, as a footnote on these, Charles II is an ancestor of both Charles III's first wife, Diana Spencer, and his second wife, the current Queen Camilla. It's ancestry of both. Thus, Charles III and Diana's son William, current Prince of Wales, is likely to be the first British monarch descended from Charles II. So, here's to Charles II, the Merry Monarch, intelligent, immoral, an ancestor, however illegitimate, of the next King of England.
Now I'm going to get this another character that's actually in the story. This toast is to the butler Brunton, and this is offered by Alan Schmitzer, who's coming to us tonight from Zoom. So, Alan, take it away.
Thank you, Steve. A toast to Brunton. I offer this toast now to the Musgrave butler, whose courtly manner and splendid brow set the local maids' hearts all aflutter. Brunton was the former schoolmaster's name, and his intellect and energy gave him great local fame, but also an unrecognized enemy. He worked out the meanings of an old family ritual, but misjudged the true feelings caused by his behavior so despicable. The sudden disapparition of 2 long-term Holstone staff caused local police great consternation, but made for Holmes no great gaffe. This proved to be a classic exhibit of a case in which the butler did it. So raise your glass in all good cheer to Richard Brunton. We all say, hear, hear.
And now it's a toast to Janet Tregellis, the gamekeeper's daughter, offered by Louise Haskett.
Can't find us. Hold on a second. Have you heard of Janet Tregellis? No. She made Rachel Howells quite jealous. Oh. When the butler went missing, was it due to his kissing fair Janet? Well, no one can tell us.
And now, ooh, here's a toast to Rachel Howells. Yes. The black-eyed ghost. Rachel Howells. Liv, by Liv Thompson.
Oh, Rachel, dark and brooding, so unstable. Through a fit when questioned, led away to bed under watchful eye. Lured away to lift the stone, but maybe not.
Try it again. Closer to you.
Okay, start over.
Get right up. Right up.
All right,
Eat it.
makes me cross-eyed.
Okay.
Rachel, dark and brooding, so unstable. Through a fit when questioned, led away to lift the stone and let it fall. Or not. As always, threw away the treasure, never more to be seen.
Cheers.
That creeped me out. That was. Right. And our final toast of the night, in our Musgrave. All right, stop here. This is my this is to Don Juan by Mike McSwiggan.
When describing Brunton to Holmes, Reginald Musgrave said, "But this paragon has one fault. He is a bit of a Don Juan. And you can imagine that for a man like him, it is not a very difficult part to play in a country district." Of course, in the Brett adaptation, he said Don Juan. When Steve was handing out toast assignments, naturally, he chose me for Don Juan. Why? Our lives run along parallel lines. Fictional Don Juan, also called Don Giovanni by the Italians, was a Spanish libertine who devoted his life to seducing women. He was written about by Tirso di Molina, Moliere, Lord Byron, Mozart, and many others. Jane Austen referred to the character thusly: "I have seen nobody on the stage who has been a more interesting character than that compound of cruelty and lust. Once again, I see myself in the character. It is undeniable." Come on, you know me. I am, to put it mildly, a rogue, a rake. And my hat, it screams Lothario. Thank you, Linda. I'm glad you brought up my wife, Colleen. I was worried that all you old-fashioned Hoosiers would be too caught up in your football and your corn harvesting to see what this swanky East Coaster was all about. So I had Colleen record a voice message testifying to my Don Juanism. I was in a rush to drive out here, so I haven't had a chance to preview this.
So apparently Mike wants me to talk about what a Don Juan he is. I think he must have been drinking because I think he's closer to Don Knotts. Likes to watch girl. Burner Shield. And he's seen Christopher Cross in concert more times than I can count. Last week I caught him huffing paint. So see his mom. And that hat makes him look a lot like a park ranger.
I think this was actually AI, not my wife. Maybe my phone got hacked. Anyway, please raise your glasses to everybody's favorite skirt chaser, Don Juan.
Golden girl. That's really you. That was hilarious. Hey. Oh my goodness. All right. That was great. Woo. Well, food is arriving. We'll take another short break here while we dine some, and we'll carry on. Hang in there online. Yeah, we'll all recover from that last toast. So. Thank you, everybody. If I can have your attention. Seems like we just took a break, but that really wasn't a break. That was just dinner. So we have a couple of things of business. We're going to do our split the pot program. Has anybody not had a chance to purchase split the pot tickets that wanted to? Okay, I'm not buying a ticket tonight, so I will draw.
Oh, okay.
Your mind.
Unless, yeah. Well, I was gonna say, did next time page?
No.
Right, never mind. Draw one, draw.
Give me one.
59.
$59. I should have bought one. All right. The winning ticket number is 061-189.
Who is it?
Yeah. Hello?
Thank you. 189. Oh, so hard. We also want to remind you that the official, we do have the official Illustrious Clients tie back in stock. It's the beautiful black and lavender tie. You see me and many others sporting. The ties go for $22 a piece. They are the official colors of the Illustrious Clients, black and lavender, which was the black and lavender were the colors mentioned. Sure, Dame's is lavender spats, yes, and his black patent shoes and his lavender spats. So those colors are now the official, have been for a long time, the official colors of the Illustrious Clients. So the tie is available, $22. See Louise. We have scarves for women too, who and scarves you can see. And they're $30, yes. So yeah, it seems an injustice that the scarf for women is more than the tie for men, but they are custom scarf makers are hard to find. So I'd like to introduce to you our friend and fellow Illustrious client member, Nicholas Meyer. Nick is film director, author. He wrote the 7% Solution, which came out in the 1974 and transformed the Sherlockian universe that we all live and breathe in now. It transformed what was a boutique, it's still eccentric, but extremely eccentric, small, mostly regional hobby into a worldwide phenomenon, one that continues to this day, one that we've never gone back from, nor will we ever. We all live in the world of the 7% Solution. And Nick has written a number of Sherlock Holmes novels. His latest one is Sherlock Holmes and the Real Thing. And we are very pleased to number him among our ranks and welcome him tonight to talk with us briefly. So without any further ado, Nick is
This is a tough act to follow, having heard all these toasts. I'd like to just, for your benefit and mine, take a little informal survey. How many people were at Black Dog Books yesterday? Yeah, that talk is going out the window. So I'll do the best I can. I've now written or found 7 of these Watsonian manuscripts. Oh, by the way, before I go any further, a couple of remarks about Charles II, the Merry Monarch. 2, which I think I find interesting. One is that, as you may recollect, that when the Puritans took power, they closed the playhouses, and it was Charles II who opened them up, but said he thought he would enjoy the plays more if the girls' parts were played by girls for a change. So let's hear it for Charlie. He also launched the largest manhunt in history to that date for his father's executioners. everybody who signed his father's death warrant, no matter where they thought they were hiding, and some of them went as far as Nova Scotia, he found them. He was not always a merry monarch. There's a Robert Harris novel about this, which I believed is called Act of Oblivion, which I think that was the Parliament Act of his father's execution. Anyway, now that we got past the fun part, I was going to, because I can't repeat last night's remarks. I could repeat them, but I'm taking pity. I'll read you a little short excerpt from this book, which I hope you will all purchase and memorize. And in order to set up this story without giving away too many things, it's a winter of 1890. I know, but you'll sort of guess. And London is pelted by a unrelenting series of blizzards. So the city is blanketed in snow, endless snow. And amidst one of these endless snowfalls, a platinum blonde manages to make it to 221B Baker Street. Lady Glendenning, who is the widow of a huge London real estate magnate. And he died a while back, and she's now sort of in charge of all the holdings. And she's come to see Holmes because one of her clients is very much behind on his rent. This is not exactly the sort of case that I think Holmes, or we for that matter, might be interested in. But the client in question is a portrait painter, an artist with a studio, and he's gone missing, and she hasn't got her rent. So she's wants to hire Holmes to find out what's become of her tenant. And Holmes has concocted the sort of oblique idea that we're going to have to wait for the snow to melt to find out. And so there they are at Baker Street when a cop shows up. Mr. Holmes, the man touched two fingers to his helmet. Mr. Holmes is asleep. I'm right here, Watson, said the detective behind me, tying the sash on his mouse-colored dressing gown. Gentlemen, I am Sherlock Holmes. What has happened? Beg pardon for the disturbance, Mr. Holmes. The policeman again deferentially touched the brim of his helmet. But Inspector Gregson sends his compliments and begs you to join him in Kensington Gardens. Kensington Gardens? I wasn't sure I heard the man correctly, and I could see Holmes shared my confusion. Just opposite the palace, sir. And he says to tell you he sent for Lady Glendenning. Lady Glendenning, it seemed all I could manage was to echo every sentence. Well, sir, seems as it was Lady Glendenning what first filed the missing persons report. Quick, Watson, into your clothes and fetch your bag. Holmes touched my shoulder. It seems the crisis has arrived even sooner than I expected. Somewhat incongruously, we were bundled into a waiting black Maria and trotted briskly off, bound presumably for Kensington Palace, though the barred windows of our transport did not allow us to see much. Holmes, what do you think has happened? The detective, his expression dimly lit within the confines of the wagon, favored me with a solemn look. I think the snow has melted faster than I anticipated, Watson. Neither of us could think of anything further to say. All was silence save the muffled hoofbeats of the horses and the occasional sounds that hinted of places we passed. Eventually we drew to a halt and the barred door was open. "We're here, gents." Kensington Gardens remained blanketed by a thin layer of snow. Without their mantle of green, the branches of the majestic chestnut trees appeared forlorn and lachrymose with melting ice. But the sight which greeted us when we stepped down and into the light was unfamiliar to me. A police cordon consisted of tarpaulins masking a large circle had been erected, effectively hiding what lay within the perimeter of the playground. By now, the place teemed with curious onlookers, many of whom were nannies escorting small children come to play in the welcome sunshine. "Mind how you go, keep the kiddies clear and stand back if you please," were the repeated instructions, delivered, I thought, in a deliberately casual monotone. "Mr. Holmes, Inspector Gregson, what have we here?" "A bad business, sir." The white-faced man frowned. "If you'll follow me." Gregson looked much the same, though his once dark hair was now flecked with gray. On previous occasions, genial banter between the detective and the policeman was not uncommon. Holmes and Gregson were accustomed to ribbing one another, each calling into question his rival's methods and abilities, but no such levity was occurring here. "And Lady Glendenning?" "Lestrade notify her, though I'm not sure that was the wisest course. But then you know Lestrade, always rushing in where angels fear to..." His voice trailed off as Holmes and I brushed past him through the gap in the hastily staked tarpaulins. I can scarcely trust myself to describe what I saw, though I know the sight will remain forever burned on my brain. The snowman was melting, revealing as it did so portions of a clothed, frozen body within it. A face, an arm, part of a leg. Seldom had I ever viewed anything that so repulsed me. Even Sherlock Holmes hesitated briefly before nerving himself to examine it. "Ingenious," he declared quietly. "Now we know where and how the murderer managed to conceal his victim. Given our succession of winter blizzards, it had occurred to me a snowbank might have been a possible repository, postponing the moment of discovery and allowing the killer time for his escape. But I confess, I did not foresee a snowman. It might have been stayed hidden still longer had the children not begun pelting it with snowballs," Greg said, drawing up behind us. What we saw was a man of middle age with curled, once yellow hair, now darkened by melting ice, so that only golden glints peeped through. Water oozed down the clean-shaven face, causing the handsome features to sag, dripping from the artist's once pugnacious chin. The frigid eyes were rheumy, as if the deceased suffered from cataracts. The effect put me in mind of a wax effigy I had once seen being softened for repair at Madame Tussaud's. "Holmes, this is beyond my experience, but the body has been more or less preserved by the temperature." "That is doubtless why there is no odor of putrefaction as yet." Holmes inspected the dead man closely, talking to me over his shoulder as he did so. "The clothes appear a tight fit, because the corpse bloated before it froze. The clothing will loosen as it thaws." He nodded. "The cause of death, I take it, is the slashed throat of the victim." Let's stop there.
Wow.
When in doubt, produce a body.
It was great. Thank you. So, Dick's book will be on sale during the break. That table right out there. Here's how this is going to work. We'll take no money tonight. That's kind of the honor system. We put your name and your phone number on a sheet, and then you will call Black Dog Books on Monday and pay for your book with credit card. And if you don't, we have your phone number, and she'll be calling you. So, we're all honorable Sherlockians. Anyway, one more time, thank you, Dick. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. Our meeting, as you know, is devoted to the Musgrave ritual. I'm going to give a little talk on the ritual, but but we're going to do a group thing. If you look at your program on the back, you will find a copy of the Musgrave ritual.
All yours. Oh yes, all yours.
Whose was it?
His one.
Who shall have it?
He will come.
What was the month?
The sixth from the first.
Where was the sun?
Over the oak.
Where was the shadow?
Under the elm.
How was it stepped?
North by 10 and by 10. East by 5 and by 5. South by 2 and by 2. West by 1 and by 1. And so under.
Shall we give it? Preach. Why shall we give it?
For the
sake of the trust.
Okay, I hope you all read the story and committed it to memory. So, number one, fill in the blanks. I have always held to that pistol practice should be distinctly an open air pastime. And when Holmes was in one of his blank, would sit in an armchair with his hair trigger and 100 boxer cartridges and proceed to adorn the opposite wall with a patriotic VR done in bullet pops. I felt strongly that neither the blank nor the appearance of our room was improved by it. Does anybody have the answers? Answers. Atmosphere is one of the answers. Yes, there are two others. Okay, we'll move to the next question. Oh, you want the answers? Okay. When Holmes was in one of his queer humors. All right, number two, Watson tells us Holmes' criminal relics often turned up in unlikely places. What place does he specifically mention? That's correct. One or two. How many cases does Holmes say he had before this one? Two. That's correct. How full does Watson observe Holmes's tin box to be? 1/3. 1/3. That's correct. Which of these unwritten cases were not mentioned in the story? Vanbury the wine merchant, Paradol's chamber, the bogus laundry affair, and the old Russian woman. Bogus laundry affair. That's one of them. And Paradol chamber. Yes, there are two that were not mentioned. Okay, fill in the blank. The manor house of Hurlston is perhaps the oldest blank building in the county. Somebody said it inhabited, the oldest inhabited. Apparently, there were a lot of other old buildings that were uninhabited. Musgrave described Brunton as well-grown, handsome man with a splendid what? Forehead. Sure, I
we're gonna use it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Marcus, you have a splendid.
I do. And more.
When Holmes asked Musgrave if there were any other old elms, he replies, no old ones, but plenty of beeches. Correct. Holmes saw a conical depression in the ground 2 inches from his peg. What information given earlier in the story makes this kind of unlikely? Rain. Yes, it rained. Musgrave said rain had fallen the night before, and we examined the lawn and the paths all around the house, but in vain. So if they couldn't find any footprints, would they be able to see that conical depression? Maybe, maybe not.
You see why they couldn't, I mean.
Yeah, but it would have been pretty much obliterated.
Or a comical depression.
So number 10, Sir Ralph Musgrave was described as a prominent what? Cavalier. Right. The bonus questions are, can you name the story or stories from which the cases listed in number 5 that were not from the Musgrave ritual cake? Anyone? Yes, that wasn't one of the ones I have on there.
Each of the untold tales were these.
Paradol Chamber and
Yeah, the Paradol Chamber and the Bogus Laundry Affair are from different. They are from different stories, 2 different stories. Anybody have any idea? Okay. Paradol Chamber was mentioned in the 5 Orange Tips, and the Bogus Laundry Affair was mentioned in the cardboard books. Okay, bonus question number 2. How many times does the number 2 get mentioned in this story? It's just kind of a guess, but I personally noticed that it was mentioned a lot, so I went and counted. So, anybody guess? 17. It was 20 times. All right, so just 10 of which were the regular and 2 bonus. So anybody have 12? Anybody have 10? Anybody have 9? 8? 8. We got 8. Great. 7?
8, 7.
8, 7. Anybody else? 6?
8. You got 8.
Okay.
8.
Who's got 8?
Back here.
Oh, yeah. 8, 7.
There's 12 answers. 10 and 2. No, there's 10 questions. Well, I guess you could say there's 3 in the first. So 14. Altogether.
I got an 8.
You got an 8.
You got 8.
There's 4
and 7.
Okay.
Anybody have 6? 7. You have 6. Oh, 7.
That's 7. Who else? All right. Well, I guess you're the first winner, and
All right.
George.
All right. Thank you, Regina. That was great. Thank you, everybody. So I'd like to offer some reflections on this story. It is one of my personal favorites. In 1997, 28 years ago, I delivered an earlier version of this talk. So if you're hearing it again, you know, sorry. Since we have welcomed so many new friends into our group, I thought it might be all right to revisit this paper. Upon doing so, the story itself, I took the opportunity to update it a bit. Preparing for this meeting with a rereading of the Musgrave Ritual, I am reminded that there is a lot going on in this story. There's English royal history. There's a treasure hunt. We have an example of one of Holmes's first cases. And there is mysterious death. But apart from this, What has always intrigued me about the Musgrave ritual was something else entirely. As we know, there has always been a debate between closed worlds when it comes to the Sherlock Holmes stories. On one hand, you have Sherlockians, comprising a spectrum of enthusiasts united by a love of the Sherlock Holmes stories and the characters in them. On the other hand, you have a sort of cloistered world of academia, where for years the merits of both the stories as literature and Arthur Conan Doyle as a writer were dismissed. It was only in more recent years that acknowledgement of and praise for the adventures of Sherlock Holmes has begun, often categorizing them under the sort of safe category of popular culture. Thus, they are rendered safe for examination or pigeonholed in that category. Careers and reputations are safe. They consider the merits of Holmes and Arthur Conan Doyle. But it is my contention that the Sherlock Holmes stories should certainly be given more respect as literature. Really, what is literature but great storytelling? Really good storytelling. This is not to say that all stories are great literature, and they don't have to be. The criteria for literature is often fluid and subjective, changing and arbitrary. So you might ask, what does this have to do with the Musgrave Ritual? Well, I believe Arthur Conan Doyle is a master of character writing, every bit as accomplished and subtle as his more acknowledged peers. For example, cite one non-Sherlockian example. Can anyone who has read the Brigadier Gerard stories find a more true-to-life portrayal of narcissism and ego, bravery and cluelessness and intuitiveness in one character in all of literature? I think you'd be hard-pressed. Closer to home, the Sherlockian canon is replete with subtle, deft portrayals of characters acting in utterly believable, recognizable human ways. It is no wonder that thousands around the world have believed in the reality of Sherlock Holmes and the stories and the characters that populate them. And for my money, the Musgrave Ritual rises above nearly all of the Sherlockian adventures in this regard. That's a big claim, so let's examine why I think this. The Musgrave Ritual has, for this purpose, two tiers of characters. The onstage Sherlock Holmes and his friend Reginald Musgrave, and the offstage characters of the butler Brunton, the maid Rachel Howells, and Janet Tregellis. We are very familiar with the character of Sherlock Holmes. While we are being given a glimpse of his early life pre-Watson, we are reassured in the beginning of the tale that it is indeed our old friend. And even in this brief glimpse, before Holmes himself takes over and begins to tell this long ago story, we are reminded of Holmes's humanity. Watson tells us, quote, "The remarkable feats with which his name is associated were followed by reactions of lethargy, during which he would lie about with his violin and his books, hardly moving, save from the sofa to the table." I don't know about you, but I personally feel an emotional letdown following some all-consuming event. For instance, after our recent canonical conclave festivities back in April, the above-mentioned quote could have just as easily applied to me, and I guarantee you tomorrow I will only be moving from the couch to the kitchen and back again. However, beyond the onstage characters of Holmes and Musgrave, it is really the offstage personalities that interest me. Canadian Sherlockian Christopher Roden has postulated that the heart of the story is the treasure hunt and the discovery of the crown, but with all due respect, Mr. Roden is wrong. While the treasure hunt and the deciphering of the ritual is the action of the story, what is visibly going on, it only happens in response to something else. And it is that something else, the hidden story, that is the true heart of the Musgrave Ritual. Consider, we have a love triangle here, and everything these people do and say and think is bound up in it. Brunton is a middle-aged man who suddenly finds himself single after years of marriage. In the words of his master, Brunton has one fault. He's a bit of a Don Juan. And do not be thinking of Mike McSwiggan right now. Oh, there. Okay. He has one fault. He's a bit of a Don Juan. And you can imagine that for a man like him, it is not a very difficult part to play in a quiet country district. When he was married, it was all right, but since he has become a widower, we've had no end of trouble with him. A few months ago, we were in hopes that he was about to settle down again, for he had become engaged to Rachel Howells, our second housemaid, but he has thrown her over since, and since then has taken up with Janet Tregellis, the daughter of the head gamekeeper. Brunton, now single, begins to play the field. Educated, considered even smarter than Musgrave himself, he manipulates and uses all around him, particularly Rachel Howells, taking up with one woman and then the next, and causing rumor and upset enough that even the aristocratic Musgrave, usually above the happenings of the servant class, he takes notice. Holmes sums the triangle up concisely. The maid had loved the butler, but afterwards she had cause to hate him. And then later, when all puzzle solving is done, when the ritual had been deciphered and the location of the treasure box discovered, Holmes reconstructs the scene. He had spotted the place. He found that the stone which covered it was just too heavy for a man to move unaided. What could he do next? He could not get help from outside, even if he had someone who he could trust, without the unbarring of the doors and considerable risk of detection. No, it was better, if he could, to have his helpmate inside the house. But whom could he ask? This girl had been devoted to him. A man always finds it hard to realize that he may have finally lost a woman's love, however badly he may have treated her. He would try by a few attentions to make peace with this girl Howells, and then would engage her as his accomplice. Or to put it another way, he went back to Rachel Howells because he needed something from her. They proceeded to the cellar and opened the vault, and again here Holmes. And now, how was I to proceed to reconstruct this midnight drama? The girl must have waited above. Brunton then unlocked the box, handed up the contents, presumably, since they were not to be found. And then what happened? What smoldering fire of vengeance had suddenly sprung into flame in this passionate Celtic woman's soul when she saw the man who had wronged her? Wronged her perhaps far more than we suspected. In her power. Was it a chance that the wood had slipped and that the stone had shut Brunton into what had become his sepulcher? He had only been guilty of silence. Had she been only guilty of silence to this day, or had some sudden blow from her hand dashed the wooden support away and sent that slab crashing down into its place? Be that as it might, I seemed to see that woman's figure clutching at her treasure trove and flying wildly up the stair with her ears ringing with the muffled screams from behind her and with the drumming of frenzied hands against the slab of the stone which was choking her faithless lover's life out. And that, my friends, that's the real story of the Musgrave ritual, beneath the surface, beneath the canonical puzzle, what university Holmes attended, the fact that it had been an early case, the connection to Charles I, beneath the cryptic ritual itself, is a story of love and obsession and betrayal and of revenge. Who amongst us doesn't recognize themselves in Rachel Howells, or perhaps, God forgive, even Brunton? Who amongst us hasn't at some time in his or her own life wished to dash the support away and send that slab crashing down on those who have wronged us, perhaps far more than they know? It is this subtext here, defined all throughout the canon, that I believe brings us back again and elevates the adventures of Sherlock Holmes and elevates the Musgrave ritual to the top of my list of Sherlock Holmes stories. Thank you. So that's a nice cheery ending, isn't it? So let's talk a little bit about the story briefly. It's been a long night. So where do you guys, you know how I rank the story. Where do you rate it? How does it rate in your category, your ranking of Sherlock Holmes stories?
Very high.
It's pretty high up there, yeah.
Quite high. It's not so much a mystery because we see what's going on. We don't know what the treasure is, but we see what's actually going on with it. But I guess it's a more consistent story character-wise in there, even though we don't have Watson really at all in the action. But it's a consistent flow of the story. And there, a lot of times we take apart some of the other stories and say, oh, here's the flaw, here's the flaw, here's the flaw in inconsistency. This one really doesn't have too many, or it's not bad in that everything seems to flow logically.
Yeah.
I think the best stories in the canon have always been those who have shown us Holmes and his abilities to solve mysteries, to solve problems. And in this one, we definitely see that. I mean, from the minute to the complex, he goes through the problem-solving process through this whole story. And throughout the canon, all of our favorite stories are those where he is seen actively doing those things. And I think that's what makes them our favorite stories.
I think, sorry. No,
Mark, we'll come back to you. Mark.
Some of the other stories there aren't many that are told by Holmes himself. They're often excused like, well, Doyle couldn't quite carry off a story that's related by Holmes, but this one kind of gives lie to that. I mean, it's a great story, and Watson's not involved. And so I guess the later ones, he just didn't work as hard.
And then.
No, I just want to point, Fabienne is unmuted. I don't know if she wants to say something. Fabienne? Okay, no, she's just shaking her head.
just in case.
Okay, all right, cool. All right.
What's struck me in listening to your paper and the reading is Holmes as a psychologist, his appreciation for what Rachel Howells is going through and what many people who feel wronged or betrayed or who get the chance to do something about it, maybe in a slightly illegal or disordered way, his entry into the mind of that person actually reminded me somehow of some of Tolstoy's writing, where you're really like you're seeing into somebody else's head. And I think what he describes is very persuasive. It's not hard to imagine what he's imagining.
Yeah. George?
I appreciated your comment about what I guess you'd call a MacGuffin in this story. With the treasure really wasn't the point of the story. It was the human interplay. But I've always looked at it as he solved two mysteries, really. The 300-plus-year-old mystery of what was the ritual all about and what did it lead to, and also the modern mystery of what happened, where did these people go and how did they find them. I will say one thing that has always bugged me about this story, which is actually very tangential, but what little I remember of trigonometry, the month of July is the one that the sun is supposed to be at the top of the oak. And if it's not the month of July, and there's no clue that I could find in the story to tell me what month it's supposed, the shadow is going to fall slightly different directions, so that bothered me that they were able to find it so easily without us really knowing what month this story.
But isn't it the 6th from the 1st?
6th from the 1st.
Isn't that July?
Right, it is, though the month is July, but the story doesn't say when it takes place. Musgrave just showed up at the Holmes flat unannounced without any given.
Coincidentally in July.
They must have known what month it was when they did the calculation. They didn't tell us.
But was it that month when he went to visit Musgrave's?
They don't tell us.
That's
They
valid.
must have known.
We have to assume it was.
But you mentioned you lost me at the trigonometry. Yeah, Louise.
Well, he's right about the trigonometry, and really a lot of it doesn't work. But one of the reasons I think it's a great story is that puzzle exists for the reader to pause and play along.
Yeah.
While you're reading, all you know is the ritual and then, this counting out of things, you can just sit there, stop at that point and go, let me see if I can figure this out, which is really a great story. That's what.
Right. There are two other things that I would mention. One is that the New York Times, maybe 40 years ago, noticed a suspicious resemblance between the fourth tempter in T.S. Eliot's play Murder in the Cathedral and the phrases of the Musgrave ritual. And a lot of people said, oh, that's nonsense. T.S. Eliot wouldn't be reading Arthur Conan Doyle. Well, they asked him, and he said, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He big fan. There were a lot of surprising people who were fans of these stories. It turns out I learned too late to put it in the book, but Sigmund Freud's bedtime reading were the Sherlock Holmes adventures. And when you read Freud's case histories, Anna O and the Ratman and the Wolfman, so sometimes it reads like he's imitating Watson, which is, now that we know he read Watson, not so far-fetched.
Yeah, I was good. That's true about the Murder in the Cathedral. Because the first time I read that, I'm in Catholic school. It's Murder in the Cathedral, and saying, I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. Wait, hold. It's
pretty sure Steve Bob didn't stare at make Elliot.
No, yeah, Elliot was a hound. He's listed on the website.
Elliot was a hound of the bastards. Yeah, interesting.
Well, didn't he also give us the cavity, the mystery?
Yes,
Yeah,
like
he did.
It was Professor Moriarty.
Napoleon.
Yes. Anybody else have any thoughts about the story you want to share? Yeah, Dave.
It's an interesting origin story, if you will. Gives some insight into what got Holmes started on the path that he decided to make his career. Perhaps a little reluctantly because of all the pain that this mystery had caused, but it set the stage for what his later life would be, and getting that insight into his beginnings is interesting.
Yeah, so he got off to a good start.
The other thing is there's a long argument whether Holmes went to Oxford or Cambridge, and he sort of fudges it by saying Camford. But what's really interesting, and I'll get the details of this wrong, I just know it. But he says he met Reginald Musgrave when Musgrave's dog bit his ankle when he went down from his rooms to chapel or something. Yes. And so the Cambridge contingent says, oh yeah, but dogs were not allowed on campus at Cambridge, or at Oxford. Yes, so it couldn't have, it has to be Cambridge. And the Cambridge people say, yeah, but he calls them courtyards instead of quadrangles. So he must have been talking about. And meanwhile, you're picking up a lot of miscellaneous information, which, as you can see, I've forgotten as to whether dogs were allowed in the blah, blah, blah.
Sanford.
Great.
Yes.
Came out with that accent.
Anybody else have anything you want to say? Yeah.
Similar position to Rachel Howells. Know whether that means being a spurned lover or a potential murderess. I'll leave that up to you. Had it coming.
Yeah, it's coming. It would take for somebody to actually asphyxiate. In a room out of the sides.
Eat up.
Yeah, sure.
I was put into the mind of the Abbey Grange, which is another instance of Holmes very clearly and quickly reading a relationship that, as you said in your statement, he understands in the psychology of how he understands people and human nature, and how he's able to kind of cut through all the window dressing and bull crap that we have to deal with. Like, yeah, this Musgrave, whatever. This is what's important here. The relationship between all of these people. And for some reason it reminded me so much of Abbey Grange, because he does the exact same thing.
That's a good
yes,
point.
he does actually look and he does see what happened, but the only reason why he's able to understand what happened is because he's able to figure out the relationships between all of the people involved. And not only that, again, we see a murderer go free at the end. Do you think that Holmes would not be able to track this woman down? Oh, she just disappeared into the night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the same way that Captain, I remember his name, it's just sort of like sends him off into the, goodbye.
Yes.
And so I've always liked these stories, to see Holmes' humanity and how he's able to just sort of, there's the law and then there's kind of what's right.
Right. And he would have made a good psychiatrist. Anybody else? Well, thank you, everybody. That was a short discussion, but okay, our meeting is almost done. I just want to remind you of the upcoming planning meeting on September 28th. 2 p.m. on Zoom. It's a Sunday afternoon. Watch your inbox, your email. You'll be getting many notifications. I urge you to sign up and come. It's a good time. We got a lot to do between now and the end of the year. This reading of 221B will close our meeting, and that will be delivered by Nancy Van Arendonk.
You got that right.
Yes, that would that would.
I mean, Sean Gage, right?
Nancy Gage, yes. Do I have the microphone in the correct position?
Correct. Yes.
A little closer. There
A
you
little
go.
closer.
Perfect.
Here dwell together still 2 men of note, who never lived and so can never die. How very near they seem, yet how remote that age before the world went all awry. Yet still the game's afoot for those with ears attuned to catch the distant view halloo. England is England yet, for all our fears. Only those things the heart believes are true. A yellow fog swirls past the window pane as night descends upon this fabled street. A lonely hansom splashes through the rain. The ghostly gas lamps fail at 20 feet. Here, though the world explode, these two survive, and it is always 1889.
Well done. It's always impressive when somebody does that by memory. Thank you, Nancy. All right, so this meeting is adjourned.